Why are you off work so early today? Nurse Chloe. I just saw Mr. Lucas come back, looking radiant and all smiles. Something good must have happened. Could it be that your marriage application got approved? Are you planning the wedding feast? I was about to push open the gate to the courtyard when Sarah, the neighbor picking vegetables next door, spotted me. Facing Sarah's nosy expression, I calculated the timing and replied calmly, "Oh, it's just one of Lucas's friends returning from abroad. No wedding candy for now." Sarah looked a little disappointed. "So, are you and Mr. Lucas getting married before the end of the year? We're all waiting." In my previous life, I was just half a month away from marrying Lucas. But now, I clutched the marriage application hidden in my pocket. Half an hour ago, I realized I had been reborn. The first thing I did was retrieve the marriage application from the office. After brushing off Sarah's questions, I opened the courtyard gate. Lucas was standing right behind it. We came face to face unexpectedly. He was dressed neatly in his work uniform, his broad shoulders, narrow waist, and long legs highlighting his perfect figure. He looked exactly as I remembered. His deep eyes exuded confidence and calmness, with a hint of coldness when they met mine. It took me a lifetime to understand that his coldness wasn't his nature, but stemmed from a deep-seated dislike for me. "How did you know I had a friend coming back from abroad?" Lucas frowned, his probing gaze fixed on me. It seemed he had overheard my conversation with Sarah. Meeting his gaze, I replied calmly, "Didn't you mention it?" Lucas's expression grew more skeptical. "When did I say that?" In my previous life, Lucas's childhood friend, Anna, had also returned today. He had kept it a secret from me until circumstances forced him to introduce her. "You don't remember?" I replied evenly. "If you didn't tell me, how else would I know?" Lucas didn't respond immediately, his gaze scrutinizing me like I was some sort of undercover agent. Seeing my calm demeanor, he seemed to waver, convincing himself that he must have mentioned it without realizing it. Clearing his throat, he said, "Well, I was going to tell you. She's a friend from abroad who doesn't have a place to stay yet. I'm going to help her find one. I won't be back for dinner tonight." I had no intention of cooking for him anyway. "All right, go ahead," I said with a nod. Lucas seemed surprised by how quickly I agreed. I knew why. Lucas was undeniably attractive and, after leaving the military, had become a high school math teacher. He was the center of attention for many women. Naturally, I had always kept a close eye on him. Whenever he went out, I'd ask where he was going and why. Anyone he met, I'd dig into their family background. Over time, he grew annoyed and began sneaking out whenever I wasn't home. Today, he must have planned to do the same, but he didn't expect me to come home early. "What are you staring at? Go on. Don't keep your friend waiting," I urged, waving him off. The sooner he left, the sooner I could get on with my own plans. "Oh, here," Lucas said unexpectedly, pulling a piece of chocolate from his pocket. In my past life, this hadn't happened. I eyed the chocolate in his hand, guessing he had intended to give it to Anna but, for some reason, was now offering it to me. "I don't eat stuff like that. It'll rot my teeth." I refused. I was no longer the girl who would get swept away by his occasional sweetness. I wouldn't forget his dying words to me, "Chloe, the biggest mistake of my life was marrying you. I regret it. I hate it." Seeing my rejection, Lucas tried to explain. "This is chocolate, not candy. I don't care. Take it to someone who does." I interrupted impatiently, brushing past him to enter the house. In this life, let him and his precious childhood sweetheart live or die as they please. Lucas didn't come home that night. I didn't waste my energy guessing what he and his beloved Anna might be doing. Instead, I stayed up all night, writing my application for employee housing. Early the next morning, I submitted the application. The results would take a few days, so I returned to my job and threw myself fully into work. Time passed quietly, and by mid-morning, I had only 2 or 3 patients left. Suddenly, Lucas burst in, carrying Anna in his arms. His strides were hurried as he pushed his way to the front of the line. "Chloe, take a look at my friend. She hurt her leg. Can you stop the bleeding first?" I glanced at them briefly. It was surprising to see Lucas, who had always been disciplined and put others first, cutting in line. His face was filled with worry. What are you looking at? Hurry up and check her, he urged, his tone impatient. Following his gaze, I saw Anna's calf exposed, with a shallow scratch. If she had arrived any later, the wound might have already scabbed over. Go to the back of the line, I said calmly. Lucas was stunned. What? Raising my voice slightly, I repeated. I said, go to the back of the line. This time, he heard me clearly. His expression darkened, and his voice lowered. Chloe. I ignored him and continued treating the patient in front of me. Lucas hadn't expected me to treat him so coldly. He reached out and tugged my arm. I looked up sharply. Lucas, you're a teacher. Don't you understand the principle of first come, first served? Or is this how you usually teach your students? He was caught off guard by my words, his face hardening in disbelief. Sensing the tension, Anna intervened softly. Lucas, it's okay. Let's go to the back of the line. Hearing this, Lucas stiffened but eventually helped Anna to the end of the queue. When it was finally Anna's turn, I grabbed some iodine and wiped the wound clean to disinfect it. That's it. Keep it dry and avoid water. Lucas frowned. That's it? Are you done already? What else? I replied flatly. Shouldn't you bandage it? He pressed. I examined Anna's wound again. Sure enough, it had already scabbed over. Unbidden, memories of my past life resurfaced. At 35, after dropping my son off at school, I went to the market and was grazed by a reckless motorbike, leaving a 7-centimeter gash on my calf. Blood poured from the wound. After getting treated at the hospital, my leg was wrapped in so much gauze it resembled a giant rice dumpling. That evening, when Lucas came home from work and learned what had happened, he didn't express concern. Instead, he scoffed. You're so fragile. That little scratch? Back in my day, my comrades and I took bullets and never made a fuss. You're overreacting. Even going to the hospital. What a waste of money. A little alcohol at home would have been enough. At the time, I thought he was just a man who didn't know how to show care. Looking back now, it was clear. It wasn't that he didn't know how to care. It was that I wasn't that person for him. If it needs bandaging, you can do it yourself. Mr. Lucas, my shift is over, and I'm going to eat. I placed the basket of gauze down, ignoring his darkened expression, and left with my lunchbox in hand. Chloe, is that woman Lucas was holding your cousin? My colleague Linda asked as she approached me during lunch. Cousin? What a familiar term. In my previous life, Lucas, to care for Anna while avoiding gossip, had given her a fabricated identity. Publicly, he claimed Anna was my cousin. Naturally, if her future brother-in-law took care of the cousin, no one would think too much of it. Back then, I had been foolish enough to believe that Lucas and Anna were purely like a brother and sister. As a result, I naively accepted the relationship he fabricated, where Anna became my so-called cousin. Mr. Lucas is so good to you, Linda said with a teasing smile. He even extends his care to your cousin. You're truly blessed to be marrying such a thoughtful man. She's not my cousin, I replied flatly. She's just a friend Lucas brought back from abroad. She has no family here. Linda's eyes widened in shock, her mouth gaping as if she could fit an egg inside. It took her a moment to process this information. Oh, well, Mr. Lucas is certainly kind to his friends, she muttered, recovering quickly. Even though this isn't some ancient feudal era, people still tend to make assumptions about men and women in situations like this, especially someone like Lucas, who is already engaged. Carrying an unrelated woman in his arms and rushing into his fiancée's workplace is bound to spark gossip. Even a dog would raise an eyebrow. After Linda walked away, I turned around and saw Lucas standing behind me, his expression dark and unreadable. Once we were alone, he finally spoke. Chloe, I didn't get the chance to tell you before, but my family and Anna's are old friends. We grew up together. When she was 18, her family immigrated overseas due to some circumstances. She's had a rough time these past few years, losing both of her parents. Now that she's back, she has no one here. I had heard this story before in my previous life. Lucas had used it to portray Anna as a vulnerable girl with no one to rely on, hoping to trigger my sympathy and make me accept her as a cousin. I looked at him calmly and asked, And how does that relate to you telling everyone she's my cousin? Lucas froze for a moment, caught off guard by my directness. In his eyes, I had no remarkable qualities, but he did acknowledge that I was kind and empathetic, especially toward those with no family, people like Anna. She's like a sister to me, he explained. Since she's back, I feel obligated to look after her on behalf of her parents. But as a man, if people hear that I'm caring for her, it might damage her reputation. So, Chloe, could you? I interrupted him. I don't have a habit of taking in sisters. If you truly consider her your sister, then host a proper ceremony. Set up a few tables and formally acknowledge her as your family in front of everyone. Once people know she's officially your sister, no one will gossip. It was a reasonable suggestion, but Lucas remained silent. After all, in his heart, Anna wasn't a real sister. She was his beloved sister. Despite my refusal, Lucas went ahead and told everyone that Anna was my cousin, just like in my previous life. Within days, he brought her to our home. He explained, "The guest house where Anna was staying isn't safe right now. I'm worried something might happen, so I invited her to stay here for a couple of days." Anna looked at me with her bright, doe-like eyes. "Chloe, I'm really sorry to trouble you like this. I was in the kitchen beating eggs and didn't bother to turn around. Oh, this is your house. You can bring whoever you want to stay." That's right. I was living in Lucas's house. My parents' home had been destroyed in a flood last year, leaving me with no place to stay. But I wasn't living here for free. I paid rent every month, cleaned the entire house, and even covered the grocery bills. At the time, I thought Lucas and I were bound to get married eventually, so I never calculated the cost or considered whether it was fair. Hearing my indifferent response, Lucas gave me a strange look. Thankfully, things went just as he wanted. Lucas responded with a nonchalant then added, "Are you cooking? Make a little more. Anna will be eating with us at home from now on." I didn't say a word. Lucas must have thought I was sulking. As he led Anna to arrange her room, he specifically reminded me, "Anna doesn't eat onions. Make sure not to add any." Still, I gave him no response. "Lucas," Anna said softly, her voice slightly concerned. "I noticed Chloe didn't look too happy earlier. Maybe I should go back to the guest house. I don't want to cause any trouble." The house wasn't big, so no matter how quietly they spoke, I could hear them clearly. Lucas reassured her, "Don't worry about Chloe. That's just how she is. You're fine staying here. But I heard you two already filed a marriage application. I'd hate for my presence to affect your relationship." Lucas paused for a moment, seemingly reminded of the marriage application we had filed. To be honest, that application hadn't been his idea. At the time, he was having dinner with some leaders from his workplace. They knew about us and felt it was time for Lucas to settle down, so they encouraged him to file it. My guess is that Lucas, thinking he would never see Anna again, reluctantly agreed out of a sense of resignation. But just a few days later, Anna returned. Now, he probably regrets it more than anything. It took him a while to regain his composure. As I carried a bowl of egg noodles back to my room, I glanced through the gap in the door and saw Lucas holding a jar of snowflake cream he had apparently bought at some point. He opened it in front of Anna with a gentle and eager expression. "I heard women love this kind of thing," he said, almost nervously. "I got it for you. See if you like it." That jar of snowflake cream triggered memories of a nightmare from my previous life. Back then, Lucas had been promoted from a teacher to a grade director, earning a decent salary, but he had always been generous and loved lending money to struggling coworkers. Over time, he brought less and less money home, and there were even times when I had to cover for his good deeds with my own savings. Between taking care of his parents and raising our child, I learned to stretch every penny to its limit. As those days dragged on, I slowly forgot how to take care of myself. One night, Lucas came home drunk. After helping him wash up, I struggled to get him into bed. To my surprise, he cupped my face in his hands and stared at me for a long time. I blushed, thinking he might finally be seeing me in a new light. But then he said coldly, "Chloe, why does your face look older than my mother's? So dark and dull. Can't you learn from other women and use some snowflake cream or something?" I was stunned, but before I could respond, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. The next morning, I didn't even go grocery shopping. Instead, I went out looking for snowflake cream, only to realize I couldn't afford it. A single jar cost as much as our family's monthly grocery bill. By the time I could afford it, I was already old. When I finally started using it, Lucas caught me one day, staring at me in the mirror for a long time. "What are you smearing on your face? Do you think it'll make you look younger? Stop acting so ridiculous, or you'll set a bad example for the grandkids," he said, then turned and walked away. Back in the present, Anna hesitated as she examined the jar of snowflake cream. "Thank you, Lucas, but I don't usually use this brand. I prefer imported ones." She handed it back to him dismissively. "Why don't you give it to Chloe? She'll probably appreciate it." Sitting in my room, eating my noodles, I heard the door open as Lucas came in with the jar of cream in hand. He frowned as he saw me. "Why are you eating alone?" I didn't even look up. What's wrong with you?" he asked, his irritation growing. I swallowed the last bite of my noodles and met his gaze. "You told me to cook, but I never agreed to it. Besides, there's only enough food in the kitchen for one person. If you two want to eat, buy your own groceries and cook yourselves." "Chloe, what do you mean by that?" Lucas's brows furrowed deeply. "The meaning is simple," I said calmly. "I'm not your maid. I'm not responsible for your meals, laundry, or anything else." Lucas stared at me, stunned. "What do you mean? Your house and my house? Once the marriage application is approved, we'll be husband and wife. Do we really need to draw such clear lines?" I stood up and looked him straight in the eye. "Lucas, are you sure you actually want to marry me?" It was rare to see Lucas looking uneasy in front of me, but this time, he avoided my gaze. "I wouldn't back out, if that's what you're implying," he said with a slight edge of defensiveness. He wouldn't back out. True enough. But he'd also resent me for it for the rest of his life. "I see Anna as my little sister. I hope you can too," Lucas said, avoiding further eye contact. He placed the jar of snowflake cream on the table and quickly left the room. I glanced at the cream sitting on the table, then put it into a drawer, letting it rest atop the folded marriage application. In this life, neither Lucas nor his snowflake cream would hold any power over me. Not long after, Lucas came back through the door. From the sounds I heard through the wall, it seemed he'd gone to borrow a few eggs from the neighbor, Sarah. Lucas had never cooked before, but for Anna's sake, he fumbled around in the kitchen for quite some time. He even managed to fry her an egg in some creative way. I don't know how it tasted, but Anna ate it with a smile, calling him Brother Lucas. As they ate, they started reminiscing about their childhood, talking about when they were 18 and their families faced sudden hardships that forced them apart. Anna's voice broke with emotion. "Lucas, do you remember the promise we made back then?" Lucas didn't say he remembered, nor did he say he didn't. He just let out a non-committal through his nose. Then both of them fell silent. I lay on my bed, sinking into memories from my previous life. That so-called promise between Lucas and Anna, a 7-year vow made when neither was married, was something I only discovered after Lucas's death. It was written on a yellowed piece of paper clenched tightly in his hand. I held that scrap of paper in my hand, feeling an indescribable bitterness. My mind replayed the entirety of my life with Lucas. From the very first time we met, it was near the end of the year. Lucas had just returned from his service, carrying his military bag. He walked through the gate with a piece of paper in hand and asked politely, "Excuse me, is this Guahua's home?" I had been drying persimmons in the courtyard when I turned to look at him. He stood tall and broad, and I couldn't think of any words to describe him. My mind went completely blank except for one thought. "He's so handsome." "You're looking for my older brother?" I managed to ask. "He's next door," my father said, stepping out before I could reply. Lucas nodded and thanked him, turning to leave. Before he could go, my father called out, "Wait, who are you to Guahua?" "I'm his son, Lucas," he said, turning his head briefly before walking away. After he left, my father noticed I was still standing there in a daze. "Chloe, what are you still looking at?" "He's already gone," he teased. Blushing furiously, I fled back into the house, my father's laughter echoing behind me. That's how Lucas first walked through the gate of our courtyard and into my heart. On an otherwise ordinary morning, becoming Lucas's fiancée happened the following summer. His father had been bitten by a venomous snake while working in the fields. Although he was rushed to the clinic, there was no antivenom available, and treatment was delayed. Lucas was in the middle of teaching a class when he was called back home. He knelt at his father's bedside, listening to his last words. "I only regret not living to see you get married and have children," his father said. "Dad, I already have someone in my heart," Lucas suddenly said, lifting his head. Everyone in the room turned to him in surprise. "It's Chloe, the daughter of Mr. Cheen. I want to marry her," Lucas declared firmly. The next moment, all eyes were on me. From the moment Lucas said he had someone in his heart, I had felt a pang of disappointment, but when he revealed it was me, I was overwhelmed with joy. In just 3 seconds, I experienced what it meant to rise from the dust to the clouds. "Uncle, I like Lucas too," I said softly. "I'm willing to marry him," I blurted out without thinking. In that moment, I naively believed Lucas truly cared for me. Looking back now, I realize he only said those words to give his father peace of mind before passing. I had been nothing more than a sacrifice for his sense of filial piety. Later, the antivenom arrived in time from the higher-level hospital, and Lucas's father was saved. After that, Lucas never brought up the topic of marriage again, always using work as an excuse. Later still, when my parents passed away in an accident, he could no longer avoid the engagement. "Lucas, those things we said were just childish talk. Don't take them seriously, and don't let it weigh on you," Anna said softly after a long silence outside the room. Lucas didn't respond. Anna continued, her voice faltering. "Chloe is a good woman. It's clear she likes you. You two are a good match." Her tone weakened noticeably on the last sentence, as if she didn't truly believe her own words. I yawned, closed my eyes, and drifted off to sleep. I didn't know how Lucas replied to Anna, but the next morning when I opened the door, I saw the two of them standing in the courtyard. The morning light bathed the yard in a soft glow. Anna was standing in front of Lucas, helping him adjust his tie. Lucas, being much taller than Anna, bent slightly to make it easier for her. The scene was warm and picturesque, almost beautiful. After adjusting the tie, Anna stepped back and smiled in satisfaction. Lucas stretched his neck awkwardly and asked, "Does it look good?" "Of course. This is how professionals dress abroad for work," Anna replied with a playful arch of her brow. "Wait, don't move. It's a little crooked." Lucas froze in place as Anna reached out to adjust it again. Then, out of nowhere, she leaned in and kissed him lightly on the lips. The unexpected kiss startled Lucas. He instinctively stepped back, bumping into a flower pot, which toppled over with a loud crash. The noise shattered the tranquil morning, and both of them turned to look toward the door. Where I stood, Lucas's expression shifted wildly, as though he was trying to maintain composure but failing miserably. Anna was the first to speak. "Chloe, please don't misunderstand. That was just a greeting custom from abroad." "A greeting custom that involves a kiss on the lips?" Truly, only someone who had spent time overseas could come up with such a bold excuse. I pursed my lips and walked toward them. My natural stern expression must have made Anna nervous because her face turned pale, and she instinctively bit her lip. Pulling my hand out of my pocket, I noticed Lucas quickly step in front of Anna, shielding her. "Chloe, if you have something to say, direct it at me. Don't." He must have thought I was going to hit her. Instead, I took out a dry leaf that had been stuck in my pocket, crumbled it, and let the wind carry it away. Just like my feelings for Lucas. Ignoring Lucas, I glanced at Anna. "Miss Anna, your international customs are quite impressive. But just so you know, Lucas has been dealing with cold sores on his lips for the past few days. Medically speaking, it's a viral infection. You might want to be careful not to catch it." Anna's eyes widened in shock, and I walked away without looking back. The moment I arrived at the clinic, the office director called me over. "Chloe, your request for employee housing has been rejected." "Why?" I asked, confused. "Your quota isn't sufficient," the director replied. In this era, quotas were everything. Without them, it was impossible to get anything done. I was about to plead further when another staff member walked in, interrupting loudly. Young people these days are so unwilling to endure hardship. Can you believe no one wants to sign up? The director turned to him. Still no volunteers? Nope, he replied. It's a tough assignment. But anyone who goes and returns will be in a completely different position. From their vague conversation and my memories of the past life, I suddenly recalled what this was about. The clinic, following higher-level directives, needed to send one medical staff member to the Northwest front line. The moment people heard Northwest, especially during the harsh winter, no one wanted to go. This was clearly an arduous task, and everyone avoided it like the plague. In the past, I also hadn't volunteered, thinking I'd soon be marrying Lucas. In the end, the assignment fell to a newcomer at the neighboring clinic. That person spent 5 years on the Northwest frontline and returned with multiple promotions. By the time they retired, they were enjoying the benefits of a hospital director and had mentored several accomplished students. Afterward, many of my older colleagues deeply regretted not volunteering. If I had known, I'd have gone even if it killed me. They lamented. Director, I'll go. Sign me up. I raised my hand excitedly. The director turned to me, surprised. The tasks are heavy, and time is tight, he said. After confirming my decision, he granted me half a day off to pack my belongings and say goodbye to my family. I had no immediate family left in this town, but my neighbors had always been kind to me, so I bought some groceries and meat, inviting Sarah and the others to my house for dinner. When Lucas and Anna returned, I had just finished setting the table. Why did you make so much food today? Lucas asked, looking at the spread with confusion. Before I could respond, Sarah and the others burst through the door, carrying festive-looking gifts. Chloe, look what we brought, Sarah said cheerfully as she walked in. I stepped around Lucas to greet them. Sister Sarah, Aunt Lila, you didn't have to bring anything. Your presence is enough. How could we come empty-handed when you're treating us to a meal? Sarah teased. Then, with a knowing smile, she added, Chloe, you seem so happy and are even hosting a feast. Did your marriage application with Lucas get approved? Lucas's face immediately darkened at her words. I glanced at him briefly, then at Anna beside him. Her previously cheerful expression had drained of color. Sensing my gaze, Anna held her head and murmured, Lucas, I have a headache. I think I'll go rest in the room. Lucas looked at her, unsure how to comfort her, and could only nod in agreement. The awkward interaction didn't go unnoticed by the others, momentarily cooling the atmosphere. But I said nothing and instead focused on getting everyone to sit down, eat, and drink. Soon, the lively chatter returned. Everyone assumed that Lucas and I were about to get married and began offering their blessings. Wishing you a lifetime of happiness. May you have children soon. They all toasted with warm congratulations. Lucas, however, looked increasingly uncomfortable. Finally, he found an excuse to call me outside. Standing in the faint morning light, his features were partially shadowed. Chloe, he began, his tone tense. Tell me, did the marriage application really get approved? I stared at him and lied. Yes, it did. Even though he should have expected this. Lucas's eyes widened in disbelief, as though it had come much sooner than he anticipated. I watched the discomfort spread across his face and feigned ignorance. The application was approved. Aren't you happy? Happy, he said, forcing the word through clenched teeth. You should be. I replied with a faint smile. After all, it was you who told your father you cared for me and wanted to marry me. Hearing me bring up his past words, Lucas's expression shifted. But Lucas, I continued, my tone growing colder. I'm not happy. Looking back at my life, the biggest mistake I ever made was marrying you. I returned his words from our previous life to him, word for word. Lucas stared at me in shock, unable to comprehend. Chloe, what are you saying? I've made myself perfectly clear. I replied. No, this can't be true. Lucas shook his head repeatedly, his expression shifting from disbelief to sudden realization. He looked at me as though he'd figured everything out. I see now. You're only saying this on purpose, aren't you? I didn't understand what he meant, so I remained silent, taking my silence as confirmation. Lucas grew smug. I knew it. There's no way you'd regret marrying me. You must be jealous because of what happened earlier when Anna kissed me. Right. He crossed his arms and gave me a knowing look. All right, Chloe. Anna has already explained that it was just a Western custom. Don't hold on to it anymore. I smiled without saying a word, which seemed to unsettle Lucas. I really just see Anna as a little sister, he said hastily. His little sister interrupted from behind. Lucas, your good little sister is here. Turning around, Lucas saw Anna standing with a suitcase in hand. He rushed over immediately. Anna, what are you doing? Her eyes were red, as if she'd been crying. She forced a weak smile when she saw Lucas. Lucas, you and Chloe are getting married. It's not appropriate for me to stay here anymore. I should move out. Move out? Where could you possibly go at this hour? Lucas asked, avoiding his gaze. Anna murmured, I have a friend. Lucas cut her off without hesitation. Who else do you know here besides me? Anna hesitated briefly, stealing a quick glance at me before continuing. Lucas, I wish you and Chloe a lifetime of happiness together. She took a deep breath, then pushed past Lucas with her suitcase and walked away without looking back. Anna, Lucas called after her, chasing her out the door. As he rushed past me, the wind of his movement carried his scent, just as it had in my previous life. Back then, on the day of our actual wedding, Anna had caused a scene, insisting she had to move out. Lucas had left all the guests who had come to celebrate, and ran after her. The difference this time was that he paused briefly before leaving. Chloe, he said, turning to me, wait for me to come back. Then his figure disappeared into the twilight. I returned to the house. Inside, Sarah and the others had clearly overheard most of what happened outside. Unable to hold back, Sarah commented, Chloe, that cousin of yours doesn't seem like an easy one to deal with. You should be careful. I calmly picked up a bite of food. She's not my cousin. She's Lucas's childhood friend. His little sister with no blood relation. The room fell silent, and everyone exchanged awkward glances. Once the guests left, I took out the bag I had already packed and walked out without a second glance. I left nothing behind in that house, except for the voided marriage application and that jar of snowflake cream. Meanwhile, Lucas caught up to Anna in the dim alley at the end of the street. Anna didn't say a word, only threw herself into his arms and sobbed uncontrollably. After she had cried herself out, Lucas finally spoke. It's too late to find a place to stay tonight. Why don't you come back with me? No, I don't want to go back, Anna protested, refusing no matter what. With no other choice, Lucas brought her to a guest house instead. Lucas, I'm scared, Anna said, clutching his sleeve as he tried to leave. Can you stay with me tonight? When Lucas turned back to look at her, he was met with her tear-filled eyes. For some reason, the image of me standing in the courtyard earlier flashed in his mind. My gaze cold, distant, and unfamiliar. He distinctly remembered that I never used to look at him like that. His thoughts grew chaotic, and he blurted out, No, I have to go back. Anna was stunned, clearly not expecting such a quick rejection. She bit her lip, her demeanor shifting. You're going back to see Chloe, aren't you? Of course. She's your wife now. You should go back to her. After all, I'm just your little sister with no real ties to you. Lucas hesitated, wavering slightly. Sensing her moment, Anna gave him a light push. Lucas, don't worry about me. Go back so Chloe doesn't have to wait for you. That small push seemed to make up Lucas's mind. You're right. A woman staying here alone isn't safe. He picked up an extra blanket from the room, laid it on the floor near the door, and declared, I'll sleep here tonight. Anna had gotten what she wanted, but any further attempts were thwarted. Lucas held his ground and refused to cross the line. He didn't step onto her bed no matter how hard she tried. The next morning, Lucas took Anna out to find a place to rent. By the time everything was settled, it was already evening. As he thought about Chloe, guilt crept into his heart. Stopping by a small shop, he bought some of her favorite snacks. Calculating the time, he figured Chloe would probably be at home making dinner by now. Lucas pushed the door open, ready with a pre-planned explanation. Last night, I took Anna to the guest house and was just about to come back when. But he stopped mid-sentence. The kitchen was empty. There was no sign of Chloe anywhere. His brow furrowed, and he quickly turned to open her bedroom door. The room was spotless and orderly but completely empty. A strange uneasiness crept over him, spreading like wildfire. He searched the small house again, checking every corner and even going in and out of the courtyard twice. Finally, he approached the neighbor. "Sarah. Sister Sarah," Lucas called out, trying to sound calm. "Have you seen Chloe?" Normally, Sarah would greet him with a warm smile and a friendly tone. But today, her expression turned cold, as if she had seen something unpleasant. She quickly replied, "Haven't seen her," and retreated into her house. Lucas sensed something was off but didn't dwell on it. Finding Chloe was the priority. He went back inside the house, and this time, he noticed something on the table that had escaped his attention before. As he stepped closer, his entire body froze in place. On the table lay the voided marriage application and the unused jar of snowflake cream. Chloe's words from the night before echoed in his mind. "Lucas, I'm not happy. Looking back at my life, the biggest mistake I ever made was marrying you." It felt like a bolt of lightning had struck him, leaving his head buzzing. He muttered to himself, "How is this possible? How?" Even now, he couldn't believe Chloe's words were true. He vividly remembered the way she had looked at him the first time they met, her eyes sparkling, as if she had found a treasure. Someone who adored him that much couldn't just walk away. Lucas jumped on his bike and pedaled furiously to the office where they had submitted the marriage application. When he arrived and inquired, he was told that Chloe had taken the application back over 10 days ago. Learning that this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision, Lucas panicked. He got back on his bike and headed to the clinic, hoping to confront Chloe and ask her why. When he arrived, the head nurse looked at him, drenched in sweat, and said, "Mr. Lucas, are you looking for Chloe? She's already gone to the Northwest front line. Didn't you know?" Lucas shook his head, his body drenched as though he had been pulled out of water. Pushing his bicycle, he walked aimlessly down the road. "Mr. Lucas, did you find Nurse Chloe?" Several acquaintances passed by, all aware that he had been searching for her. Lucas, his face pale, shook his head. The others didn't seem surprised. After he had walked a little further away, they began whispering among themselves. Chloe was such a good woman, but he ruined it. Serves him right. "What do you mean? You don't know? That Anna woman Lucas keeps introducing as Chloe's cousin? She's not her cousin at all. She's Lucas's beloved little sister." "What? His little sister? And he brought her to their home? Isn't that just humiliating Chloe?" "Exactly. It's outrageous." Hearing this as he doubled back, Lucas couldn't hold back and shouted, "What nonsense are you talking about?" The group flinched for a moment but quickly regained their composure. After all, they knew they weren't lying. "Mr. Lucas, whether it's nonsense or not, you know the truth. You have a fiancé, yet you're fooling around with another woman. Don't think we didn't see you and Anna entering the guest house together and staying there all night." Lucas stammered, "We're innocent." "Innocent? How innocent can you be? Spending the night together in a guest house?" One of them scoffed. "A man like you doesn't deserve Chloe." They spat on the ground in disgust and walked away, leaving Lucas standing there, stunned. Days passed, and it gradually sank in. Chloe had truly left him. In the past, he never thought Chloe was that important to him. But now, whenever he saw someone picking persimmons, the memories would overwhelm him. Lucas often found himself lost in thought, recalling an image of Chloe climbing a tree, her sleeves rolled up. She sat high on a branch, holding a ripe persimmon and calling down to him, "Lucas, look, isn't this one bright red?" He would take a step closer and reply, "It's red." "What's red?" Anna's voice broke through his thoughts, pulling him back to reality. She was standing beside him, holding a lunchbox. Startled, Lucas glanced at her and asked, "Why are you here?" Anna smiled sweetly. "I came to bring you lunch." Lucas looked at the lunchbox in her hand, his expression hesitant. Having lived abroad for years, Anna's idea of a meal consisted of cold bread, boiled eggs, and a few salad leaves. Nothing like Chloe's steaming pork dumplings. I've already eaten, Lucas finally said after some deliberation. Anna looked crestfallen. Before she could respond, the school principal appeared, calling out to Lucas, "Mr. Lucas, can you come with me for a moment?" Lucas followed the principal, and 15 minutes later, he emerged from the meeting looking troubled. Anna was still waiting outside. "Lucas, what's wrong?" she asked, hurrying to his side. He shook his head silently. When Anna tried to take his arm, he gently but firmly brushed her hand away. Soon after, news of the meeting began to spread. A parent had filed a complaint against Lucas, accusing him of improper behavior with women and claiming it could negatively influence the students. As a result, Lucas was disqualified from receiving an award for outstanding teacher performance. When Anna heard about it, she stormed into the principal's office, causing a chaotic scene in an attempt to defend Lucas. By the time Lucas arrived to stop her, the room was in complete disarray. "Anna," Lucas barked, expecting comfort. Anna looked at him with tear-filled eyes. Instead, she was met with his sharp rebuke. "What were you thinking? Who gave you the right to interfere in my affairs?" "But Lucas, I was only trying to stand up for you," Anna protested, her voice trembling with emotion. "I don't need your help," Lucas snapped. Anna burst into tears. Outside the office, teachers who had witnessed the scene began whispering among themselves. "So, that's the sister Lucas brought back from abroad," one muttered. "She's nothing like Nurse Chloe," another replied with a sigh. "Lucas's life is going to be tough from now on." Lucas overheard their comments. He hadn't realized before how highly others regarded Chloe. In their eyes, the woman he once found plain and ordinary was, in fact, exceptional. After the incident, Lucas was reassigned from teaching math to teaching physical education, giving him more time to think. And the more he thought, the more he found his mind drifting to Chloe. Her braids, her red floral jacket, the way she had looked at him with her clear, bright eyes the first time they met. The more he thought of Chloe, the less he thought of Anna. He convinced himself that if he waited long enough, Chloe would return, and everything could be salvaged. But Anna had no intention of waiting. One night, when Lucas was drunk and wallowing in his own misery, Anna climbed into his bed. The next morning, before the neighbors were fully awake, Anna staged a dramatic scene. She stormed out of Lucas's house, disheveled and crying, threatening to throw herself into the river. The scandal spread like wildfire, and Lucas's reputation was completely ruined. Left with no choice, he married Anna, far away on the Northwest front line. I knew nothing of this. I didn't have the time or energy to speculate about Lucas and Anna's ultimate fate. As the new year approached, I performed an emergency C-section on a mare struggling with a difficult birth. Among the group that came to thank me afterward was a doctor. After hearing about the surgery, he gave me a piece of advice that changed my career trajectory. "You've got steady hands," he said. "Being a nurse doesn't do you justice. You should consider pursuing surgery, if you ever get the chance. I hope to see you at the hospital in the capital." Before leaving, he handed me a few medical books. It felt like I had finally found my calling. I pored over those books again and again, committing every word to memory. In the days that followed, whenever a herder's cattle or sheep faced complications during birth, they would call on me to perform the surgeries. And so, life went on. Day by day, my life now was the complete opposite of my previous one. I finally understood the meaning of freedom, living entirely for myself. I never thought about Lucas again. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. My assignment at the Northwest Frontline came to an end, and I returned to the clinic I had left so long ago. The director, who had seen me off back then, personally came to pick me up. "Chloe," he greeted warmly. "Welcome back." Then, he handed me a transfer letter. "This just came in. It's from the hospital in the capital. They specifically requested you." Opening the letter, I immediately recognized the handwriting. It was from Dr. Du, the mentor who had changed the trajectory of my career 5 years ago. Over the years, I had stayed in touch with him, writing to him whenever I faced challenges or had questions. Despite his busy schedule, he always replied thoughtfully and thoroughly. That evening, my colleagues at the clinic organized a farewell and welcome back dinner for me at the state-run restaurant. After eating and drinking their fill, The conversation inevitably turned to the events of the past 5 years, particularly those involving Lucas and Anna. Since marrying Anna, it seemed Lucas's life had taken a turn for the worse. Not only had he lost his teaching position, a once stable job, he had recently secured work as a library assistant, only to lose that too. The reason? Anna had seen him speaking to a female coworker, flown into a jealous rage, and publicly attacked the woman, pulling her hair and shouting. The incident left Lucas humiliated and unemployed once again. Anna, emboldened by her pregnancy, faced no consequences and became even more brazen. Their family was now shunned by everyone in the area. Stories like this weren't uncommon. "If I were Lucas," one colleague said with a sigh, "I'd regret it so much by now." "Exactly. He let Chloe slip through his fingers," another chimed in, and several pairs of eyes instinctively glanced at me. I smiled lightly, unfazed, and continued eating. After the dinner ended and everyone had left, I heard someone call my name. Looking up, I saw Lucas standing across the street. It had been 5 years, but he looked like he had aged 20. His hair was streaked with gray, and his once straight posture was now slightly hunched. He stared at me, his eyes shimmering with regret. "Chloe," he said, his voice trembling. "I was wrong. I never should have said those things to you." In that moment, I realized he might have also been reborn. As for his apology, it wasn't just directed at me but also at the life he had ruined in this timeline. His expectations, shaped by his past life, had shattered. The price he paid had been far too steep, and the outcome far worse than he ever imagined. Before I could respond, Sarah appeared, and I turned to open the gate to my courtyard. "Lucas! Lucas!" Anna's shrill voice echoed from the alleyway. At the sound, Lucas's face twisted with frustration and weariness, as though her cries were a curse chasing him down. I never thought I'd see the day he looked at someone he once cherished so much with such disdain. As Anna came running after him, I turned and walked away. From behind, I heard her scream, "Lucas, are you here to see that whore Chloe? Let me tell you, as long as I'm alive, you'll never be with her. Never. If I have to die, I'll take you with me. Lucas, say you love me. If you don't, I'll jump right now." Her hysterical cries and the sound of their struggle gradually faded into the distance. Thought suddenly occurred to me. In our previous life, Lucas had left too hastily, and I never had the chance to tell him that Anna had a severe hereditary mental illness. Why hadn't it surfaced back then? Perhaps it was because, as a solitary woman basking in the glow of love, her symptoms had been kept at bay. I walked to the end of the road and looked up at the vast night sky filled with stars. Among the countless stars, one shone just for me. My future lay ahead, and it was full of promise.